Hello everyone, welcome to the next part covering payroll and salary.io. Next we'll look at the payroll run process. Here's a use case for when an employee starts in the middle of the month, which involves prorated salary. Prorated salary is typically used when an employee works only part of a pay period, for example, when they start mid-month or take unpaid leave. Here's an example scenario where prorated salary would be applied. An employee is hired to start on the 15th of the month, but the company's salary cycle runs from the 1st to the 30th of each month. Instead of paying the employee a full month's salary, the company will calculate a prorated salary based on the actual number of days worked in that specific month. As the payroll process gets underway, the user needs to initiate the process, especially considering employees who joined mid-month. The system will then use the number of working days defined in the system as the basis for calculation. HR will then proceed with executing the payroll run and will select the processing type as regular. In this regular processing flow, the system will calculate the payroll and salaries for all employees working in the organization based on their eligibility and attendance. Based on that calculation, there is an end with the payroll processing for the period. On the user execution part, HR needs to log into the system and set up the following details for the payroll run. HR will navigate to the payroll run window and create a new record for the payroll period they are processing. Then, if the HR user has access to multiple organizations, they will select the specific organization from the drop-down menu. Based on the selected organization, the available payroll names will be displayed in a drop-down. The user needs to select the correct payroll name. Next, the user needs to select the payroll period, indicating for which month they are going to process the payroll. Based on the payroll period selected, the start date and the end date of that period will appear automatically. Then, the user needs to select the processing type as regular and click on the Process button. The system will then execute the payroll calculation in the background. Once the payroll processing is completed, the status of the payroll run and the count of employees processed will be updated in the header fields of the payroll run record. As part of this process, the system will calculate the salary of each employee, taking into account the number of working days in that particular month. So, let's start with the prorated salary scenario during a regular payroll run. From the menu, we will open HR Management. Within HR Management, there's a folder called salary.io, containing the payroll-related windows used to process payroll or generate reports. So we'll go to the payroll run window. When you open it, this is the landing page. You can create a new record here, view payroll runs that have already been processed, generate payslips, and run various reports. Based on comparisons between the current and previous month, you can also see data displayed in charts here. Currently, since we haven't processed any payroll for the current or previous month in this demo environment, the charts are not showing any data. Let's start with processing payroll for the period of March. The user will click on Create New Record here on the landing page. You could also go to the main window and create a record there. The organization will appear automatically based on the user's profile, or if the user has access to multiple organizations, they will be shown in a drop-down menu. Now we will select the payroll here. The payroll name will appear automatically based on the selected organization. Now here I am selecting the pay period for which I am going to process the payroll. So I am selecting the March period. Based on the period selection, the start date and the end date are appearing automatically. And now I will select the processing type as regular because I am going to process the payroll for all the employees in the HQ organization. And just save the record. Now I will click on Process and click on the OK button in the confirmation pop-up. And on the Run Assignment tab within the payroll run record, the user can refresh and can see the various processes going on. For multiple employees, the payroll process is in progress in the background. Once the payroll processing is completed, we can see the message on the screen as payroll executed successfully. So we'll just refresh this record, the payroll run record itself, and we'll look at the March payroll data. And you can see the processed employee count in this organization is 17, and the status is marked as completed. Now we'll go to the Run Assignment tab, and in this, we can see that for all these employees, the payroll has been executed. Now we'll check the specific case of the employee who joined in the middle of the month. So we will check how the system prorated the salary based on their joining date. So, this was the employee who joined on the 15th of March. Based on the joining date, the actual full monthly salary for this employee was $55,000. However, she only worked for 17 days in the month of March. That's why the system is prorating the salary, and the system will calculate the salary and basic salary only for those 17 days she worked. The user can verify the calculation here. So the actual gross salary for this employee is $55,000 per month. Based on that, the calculated gross salary for the 17 days worked is coming out to be $30,000. So, the user doesn't need to manually worry about the proration. The system will automatically calculate the salary based on the number of days worked itself. So this is the case demonstrating a regular payroll run with proration handled automatically. Here we have another scenario, when an employee resigns in the middle of the month. In this situation, the user doesn't need to wait until the end of the month or for the next regular payroll processing cycle. HR can process the full and final settlement for that employee within the same pay period they leave, even if it's in the middle or early part of the month. The system provides the flexibility to run payroll specifically for a single employee in cases of resignation or termination. Just like with joining mid-month, a prorated salary is commonly used when an employee resigns or leaves the organization partway through a month. Here's an example use case where prorated salary would be applied. An employee resigns on the 15th of the month, but the company's standard salary cycle runs from the 1st to the 30th. HR will process the full and final settlement for this employee in that same pay period when they resigned. Here we have the workflow for using the quick pay function for such cases. HR starts the process by updating the resignation details for the selected employee in the system. Based on the actual end date provided, the system will determine the number of working days for that final period. After updating the details, HR will proceed with executing the payroll processing, but this time, selecting the processing type as Quick Pay. When using Quick Pay, the system will execute the payroll calculation only for that single employee, not the entire organization or group. And here the process ends for processing the quick pay for that employee. At the execution part, HR can log into the system and update the resignation details of an employee, specifically making sure the actual date of release is correct. They will navigate to the payroll run window and create a new record for this quick pay run. They'll select the organization from the drop-down if they have access to multiple organizations, and then select the relevant payroll. Based on the selection of the payroll period, the start date and end date for that period will appear automatically. Then the user will select the processing type as Quick Pay, since they are going to execute the payroll only for one specific employee. Click on the Process button. When the user clicks on the Process button, the system will give up the pop-up message to select the employee for whom the HR is going to process the payroll. The system will then execute the payroll calculation for that employee in the background. Once the quick pay payroll is completed, the status and the processed employee count will be updated in the header fields of the payroll run record. Let's look at an example case for processing the payroll for an employee who resigned or was terminated in the middle of the month. So here we have an example of one employee record ready. I will go to the employee personal information section. Here I am searching for the employee with this specific name. So you can see that in this end of service record, it shows this employee notified today that this person is resigning on the 15th of this month, and the resignation status is marked as accepted. The separation type for this employee is resignation. So whenever the system HR admin updates the end of service record in this tab, automatically the end date of that employee will be marked in the header tab of their personal information record, as well as into their work information window. So we'll go to the employee work information section and search for this employee's record. In this view, you can see the employment end date will automatically update here as the 15th of April. Now HR needs to do the full and final settlement for this employee on the 15th of the month itself. They are not going to process and pay the money to this employee in the next standard payroll period. The user will go to the salary.io module and navigate to the Payroll Run window. And click on the New Record button to start a new payroll run record for this quick pay. Select the payroll name as monthly in the period which was selected for this separation. So we are going to execute the payroll for the 4th month in a year, and here I am going to process the payroll only for one employee, the one who resigned. So that's why here I am selecting the processing type as Quick Pay, and I just save the report. When I click on the Process button and confirm with OK, the system will open another pop-up window with an employee field. So here I need to select the specific employee for whom I am going to process the payroll. So I selected this employee and click on the OK button. So here you can see the payroll is executed for one single employee. The processed employee count appears as 1 here. And when we go to the Run Assignment tab, here you can see that payroll was executed only for this one employee. If we open this record and go to the Run Result, here you can see the salary of this employee is calculated only for 15 days, because this person worked for 15 days in the month of April. The actual monthly gross for this employee was $50,000. Based on the number of working days, the actual paid salary for this period is $25,000, and other calculations will adjust accordingly. This demonstrates the quick pay process. Here, if we go to the home screen and on the landing page, and if we refresh the records here. Now here you can see we have processed the payroll for the April month and for the previous month. So you can see the comparison of the current month net pay and the previous month net pay displayed in the chart. Similarly, we have a chart showing the top 5 departments by the amount paid out this month. In the active employee versus processed employees section, we can see the total active employees for this month was 31, but we processed payroll for one employee only in this specific run, showing the difference. Apart from this, we have the deduction comparison between the current versus previous month. In the previous month, we had this much total deduction for all employees, and in the current period for this specific run, we have a deduction of $2,600 shown here. So we can get the summary from the landing page itself. Apart from this, we have another feature if we look at the bottom of the screen. So now here I have selected the March payroll run record. And when I go down, here we have a small tab panel. We call this the Payroll tab panel, which will provide us with details of all the employees processed in this run, along with the total processed amount. Here we can see how much net pay salary we have paid in the previous month, February, and in the current month, March. So we can see this is the net pay for the February month, and this one is for the March month. If I want to see the comparison of components for a specific employee, I can click on an employee's name. So I can see which components were processed in the payroll for this employee, and which balances the calculated values are contributing to. If I want to see which components are contributing to a particular balance, the user will select on the particular balance, and here I can see a plus sign. It means these 6 components are going into the basic salary balance. If I look at the special allowance balance, in this you can see only one component is contributing. Here I can also see the previous month balance and the current month balance, which we are going to contribute in the particular balance. So this is the Payroll tab panel, which will help us to identify and to analyze any comparison or gap in the values between periods. Here we have no much difference, so that's why we are not able to identify a significant change. All the values marked in red indicate the current month comparison based on the previous month where there is a difference in the values. If you look at the employee listed on the second position, here we can see for the February month for this employee, the net pay value is $15,750, but in the current period, the gross salary of this employee is $33,548. This highlights a change in their pay between months. So we can easily identify any variances or differences in the payroll calculations using this Payroll tab panel. And let's move on to the next topic. The Retry functionality in salary.io. The system allows you to retry payroll processing for individual employees if you encounter errors, rather than needing to roll back the entire payroll run. This way, you can simply fix the issue for the affected employees and then retry their payroll calculation specifically. Here's a scenario. HR runs the payroll for the entire organization. During the verification process, HR discovers that some employees are missing certain payroll components, which is causing discrepancies in their pay data. To fix this, HR needs to go into the system, amend the employee record and their component details to add the missing information, and then reprocess the payroll specifically for those affected employees to correct the discrepancy. Here we have a flow outlining the retry payroll process. HR will start with the current payroll run that was executed for the month. They'll go to the Run Assignment tab within that payroll run record, select the specific employee, and mark the retry checkbox as true for that employee. Then, HR will make the necessary changes to the employee's record or components. After making the changes, they will go back to the payroll run record and process the payroll again. The system will then execute the payroll calculation only for those selected employees for whom the retry box was marked true. And here the process ends for retrying payroll for those specific employees. If we look at the execution part in the system, HR needs to be logged into the system. They will navigate to the payroll run window and select the specific payroll period that was already processed. They'll go to the Run Assignment tab within that record and mark the retry option as true for the selected employee as. Once the retry option is marked as true for an employee, the status on the header tab of the payroll run is updated to pending for retry. Now HR will update the employee's record and their component details to fix the issue. After making the corrections, they will go back to the payroll run window and process the payroll again. The system will execute the payroll in the background, but only for those employees for whom the retry is marked as true. Let's have a look at how the retry case works within the system. The HR admin will go to the record of the payroll that was already executed. So here I am selecting the March payroll run record. I'll go to the Run Assignment tab within this record. And here when I filter the report, on the bottom, we can see there is one employee record. For that employee, the component values are not appearing in the Run Result tab, except for the professional tax. So, some values are appearing, but the values in the other components, like salary or allowances, are not showing up as expected. The user will identify the issue causing this discrepancy and fix it in the employee's record or component assignments. Then, they will reprocess the payroll for this specific employee. As of now, I am marking the retry option as true for this employee's record in the Run Assignment tab and saving the record. And when I go back to the header tab of the payroll run record, here you can see the status has updated from completed to pending for retry. Now we'll go to the Employee Work Information Payroll window and select the employee record for whom we need to fix the data. I'll click here and go to the Work Information tab, and then go to the Payroll Component Details section. Here I can see all the required components are linked to this employee, but it seems the gross salary value is not defined for this employee. Since most calculations depend on the gross salary, this is likely the cause of the issue. So here I will click on the New Record button and update the gross salary component. I'll set the start date for when this salary is effective, which should be the start of the payroll period or the employee's joining date. Then I'll go to the entry value and update the amount. I will give the salary as $30,000 here. I will update the effective date from when this salary change is applicable. Now I have added the gross salary for this employee and fixed the missing data. Go back to the payroll run window and click on the Process button again. Within seconds, the payroll is executed specifically for that single employee, because we marked them for retry. Now we'll verify the detail in the Run Assignment tab to see the corrected calculation. So we'll go back, and we'll select the employee's record. So here you can see now for the very same employee, the gross salary value is appearing as $30,000, which we have added recently, and based on that, the values for other calculations are also appearing correctly on the screen. So this demonstrates the retry functionality. Please join us in the next part of our salary.io training. Thank you.